Welcome back everyone. Continuing to work on our liner lock project. In the last video, we got the handles made and mounted to the liners. Now we need to trim the screws, finish the profiling, and we got to come in here and cut some pockets where our pivot screw will be hidden, where the pivot head will be hidden behind the bolsters. And of course, we've got to relieve the lock bars on the liners so that the lock bar can move over at least the width of the detent ball. That way it's not in a bind. And we've got some embellishments and stuff to do. I've got to make a couple pocket clips. Quite a lot of work to do. It takes a little time, especially when you're working on a big batch like this. So let's quit wasting time and get to it. All right, there's a couple ways that I trim the screws on the back side of the liners. On the flat liner, I just take it over to my disc sander and cut them clean. The one with the lock bar, I take them out and trim them by putting in a sacrificial piece of steel out to the length I need cut off, and then flat sand them off. Now you could do all of this work, mount your handles before you cut this lock bar and cut down on having to do this step, but I didn't, and this is just how I do it. But I'm going to get that done, then we'll set up to cut the pockets on the back side of the bolster area for our pivot heads. I've got several different sizes. I also have to trim down the pivot heads. On these, they're a little big, so I'll just trim them down. I'll take them to the grinder, or I could put them in my lathe, but we'll use a drill and a grinder and show you how to do it that way. It's pretty simple. All right, I'm over here at the grinder. I've got a drill and I've got a pivot head screwed into the pivot there. I've got to trim each pivot head because it's too wide for the little mini folders. I'm going to be trimming it down to a little under 5/16, and that's what I'll use for the counterbore into that bolster side to hide that pivot head. I want to show you how I do this with a drill. I can chuck it up in my lathe and do this pretty quick and accurate. But I've got a little mark there. I don't know if you can see it, probably can't, in the center of that pivot head, so I can see where I'm going. And I will run it on here, cut it down, and go do the counterbore. Then I'm gonna do all the profiling on all of the frames, all the liner locks. All right, if I'm looking like it's hot, it is. It's like 94 in my shop right now. And I just turned the fan off and that light's cooking me. All right, so I got them profiled and finished up all the way around to their final finish. And they're up to 600 grit. Only thing I'll do on the outsides of these is a little hand sanding to blend anything I might have missed when I was on the grinder over there. The next thing I'm gonna do is take them back apart, and I gotta relieve on the scale so the lock bar can move over. I also have to go onto these little ones, do the same thing, but I also have to come in here and cut the notch for the thumb stud to rest in. After I get all those liner reliefs done, the lock reliefs done, then I will profile them, set up and start profiling and do all the finish work or the decorative embellishments and whatever else we'll do here. Mostly just some jeweling and some anodizing, but I will be doing some file work as well. So we get these apart, turn the fan back on, and turn that light off. All right, so what we've got here, well, it's jerry rigging, but this is a jig I made for cutting the relief where the lock bar can sit down in the handle material. Now at this point down here, I need to be down around 18 to 20 thousandths. That's how much the detent ball sticks out when it's riding on the tang of the blade. So you need somewhere for that lock bar to go, and it has to go here. If not, it's going to be hard to open, and you'll be putting a lot of stress on your handle, and you'll have all kind of problems. So what I've got is this jig is up around 20 thousandths on this side. I'll start here where I barely touch with the end mill and cut all the way here to get my 20 thousandths at the very end. That'll allow that lock bar to flex in. This will be a gentle taper, and it'll look better than just gouging down and cutting over, which you can do, but this just looks better. The lock bar rides flat against here for the most part. And I will make a cut here, and then I will cut up some to allow for the radius of the end mill, because the lock bar will hit in here if I don't. So I'll be moving the end mill up slightly. Now I'm using a 5/16 end mill here. Bigger handle material, I'll go with a larger end mill. But this will cover in one pass. I'll go down, make the pass, and then come back up and get off of it. Now I've got it clamped up here. Like I said, it's kind of, a machinist's nightmare, but it works. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I've got all of those release cut. I've got the scales mounted to the titanium liner. And now I'm going to put me some marks on here so I can start contouring them. And I mark them out with the titanium down, because this top side is not necessarily the same thickness all the way across, but I know that my titanium is flat. So I've just got my height gauge set here, and I'm just going to put a pencil mark around the perimeter. Probably out of focus here, or you can't see. That's pretty much all it is to it. I'll do this on both scales and take it over and, well, I got to put them back together and I will contour them. And I will do these the same way. And again, got them mounted to the titanium. You know, I was just sitting here thinking, I've done this full project with all of these alt 80 screws. There's 32 of them in these 4 small ones. And I was thinking, you know, I hadn't dropped one or lost one. And about that time, I dropped one. Well, after about 30 minutes, I found it on the floor, because everything on the floor looks like an alt 80 screw. Go figure. All right, well, all the contouring done, I'm going to go ahead and jewel the inside of these liners. And it's just some decorative work you do on the inside. You can't really see the inside unless you hold the knife at a certain angle, but it just adds to it. And it's just a little extra touch. And we're going to get these done. I'm using Cratex. You can buy this in different sizes. I think I have some linked in the description. But we'll get these done. Then I'm going to go ahead, lay out, and do the decorative file work, which I won't be using files. And we'll anodize. I still have to do the thumb studs on the smaller knives. Also have to etch the 2 Damascus blades. So let's get this done. All right, I think we've seen enough of this for the handful of folks that are watching this video series. Still have to make a pocket clip for one of these. This customer did not want one for this flipper. It's his drop point. I know it's hard to see these, and I've got some pictures and video close up here at the end that I'll show you, but they turned out pretty good. And the small ones, first time I've made these, this is for a customer. And I went at, you saw me inset some jewels at the end there in these little ladder Damascus flippers. Again, I'll show you some shots there. They turned out very nice. Pretty satisfied with that. Here's another one. Just different variations. They turned out very nice. I'm pretty satisfied with that. Anyway, I hope you got something out of this series. I'm glad to be done with them. These little ones were a challenge. Everything's so small. I want to thank my patrons. I really appreciate your support. You just don't know. And I want to thank the folks that are watching. I've still got 2 frame locks to finish. And if you'd like to see me finish those on video, I'll do it. But based on the views of this series, I don't see much interest in it, but I still have to finish those to complete the 8. And then I'm going to be moving on to the next project. But anyway, thanks again. We'll see you on the next one.